Thank you everyone for waiting. Apologies for the slight technical problem there. I'm very excited to introduce this webinar. We're going to cover an overview of resident screening for HAB clients. So a few things before we start. I just want to tell you that if you have any questions, then you can use the question option. And we have a group of panelists that we're going to be introducing in a minute that are set to answer those. We're going to keep the question session until the end unless it's specifically relevant to the item that we're showing on the screen. So I encourage you to use the question option, and if we don't get time to cover it in this webinar, then we will certainly follow up with you afterwards. So without further ado, this button just shows you how to enter the questions. I'm going to introduce the presenters to you. So the presenters we have on today are three of our top experts in this aaron Durkee has recently taken over as the director of the Resident Check suite of solutions. And Aaron, the responsibility covers a broad spectrum of both implementations, operations, and client support, as well as getting all of your great feedback and feeding that back into our product management and development. Tom has been in this area for 20 years now. Tom was part of the original design team for the HAB product line, and I'm sure many of you on the phone today know Tom personally. And so he will take us through the HAB side of the solution that we're presenting to you today and show you how you can integrate resident screening into your existing implementation. Finally, Ashley is our resident solution architect for MRI software. So Ashley covers pretty much all of the software demonstrations related to the multifamily and residential suites. Ashley works very closely with clients and prospects and again takes all of your great feedback and has a lot of industry expertise and is our expert in this particular area. So Ashley's going to cover the demonstration for resident screening itself. So without further ado, I'm going to turn over to Aaron, who's just going to touch on the panelists before introducing the solution suite itself. Thank you, Aaron.
Well, thank you, Andy, and good afternoon to everybody on the webinar today. Every product and service has a great team behind it, and the Resident Check product and service is no different. So I just want to quickly introduce Justin Baker, who is our Director of Technology. He's a key contributor to the software that we're going to see today. Then we also have Melinda Patterson, who is our operations supervisor. She is the leader for the team that is behind the product and services, and we're going to take a look at how that team specifically brings a added business benefit to the product and service that's delivered through Resident Check. And then we also have Monica Preston, and Regina Shute that are great colleagues that are part of our client support. When you call in and have specific questions about the integration or how to process an application, these are two of the colleagues that you'll talk to. But before I get into Resident Check and the business benefits of Resident Check and eventually to the demo, do want to welcome all of the HAB clients to the MRI family and to the residential suite of products. Up on the screen right now you can see a list of several of those various different products. MRI has invested a large amount of money in the multifamily industry, including the public and affordable housing industry. And in addition to all of the products that are available in the residential suite that you can see up there, the Partner Connect program will allow you to take advantage of an ecosystem of vendors and partners that MRI has as part of their solution. for the public and affordable housing industry. And we'll take a look at where you can find a list of those partners and get better connected with the options that they have available. And in addition, MRI and the investment that has been made in property management and compliance and connecting with HAB and HAB's excellent track record in compliance, we want to make sure that you're connected with some of the new features that are going to be available in the very near term from MRI, and that is electronic document signing. And we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of, or during the Q&A session. So without further ado, I'd like to talk about the business benefits for Resident Check. I mentioned Melinda is our team leader for our in-house private investigators. So when an application, and specifically a criminal background check, is run, it's not just done by the software, it's done by a team of experts that ensure in real time that the background check is performed and it's correctly applied to the property criteria that we help you set up during implementation. And we make sure that that is done uniformly and correctly on every property. And that leads to the next business benefit, which is helping to minimize your liability and your fair housing risk. It eliminates the need for an override because the Resident Check team has already ensured that there are no false positives with the results that you receive and the criteria that have been applied for your property. By default, the property cannot override, as a matter of fact, and that permission is saved just for a area level or a corporate level. Of course, this is customizable. During implementation, we'll work with your team to determine if you want to change that. But from a best practices standpoint, we highly recommend that you take advantage of that business benefit, which leads to the next business benefit of relieving administrative burden. So when we do have a conditional or a denial, an adverse action letter is generated, and the contact information for Resident Check is included on that adverse action letter. The property doesn't need to walk the applicant through their background history or why they were denied or why there's a conditional associated with the criteria. They can simply call our team and they will walk them through that, and they will help them with any particular dispute they may have on their adverse action letter. These two things combined lead to the next business benefit, which are a couple of your key performance indicators. That is occupancy and reducing bad debt. Again, back to the reducing the false positives and making sure that the property criteria is applied correctly and uniformly across all applicants. It's going to ensure that you maximize your occupancy. And then in some cases, if credit is part of your screening criteria, and when I say some cases, it's in all cases where credit is included, the applicant's credit history is also going to help determine if they are going to pay on time and not skip and not get behind on their payments, and thus that reduces the bad debt. So as we go through the demo, I want everyone to keep all three of these in mind, and we're going to touch on those again after we see the demo. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Tom to start us out in the HAB demo and then take us through to the integration point, and then Ashley will show us some specifics about resident screening.
All right, and now, did you pass over the screen to me?
Yes, sir. There you go. You should have it.
Okay, is it up now? All right. Yeah, okay. Can everyone see this? Sorry.
We do see it.
All right, great. All right, this is Tom from HAB Inc. And I've been with the company a really long time. Jill Flarchuk and I wrote WinFam and a whole team of us have put together Encompass. And I know you're all familiar with the basic search screen here. So there's a couple of ways to go into our verification module. I'm just going to go in through the WinFam way. That's the way you would normally treat applicants or tenants. There's a work list that you can also run from Verify, but I think just for you to get the idea of how quick and simple the system is, we'll bring up a tenant and we'll do some verifications or screenings. So with further ado, I'll do that. So this is a test database. Everybody has a last name of a president. Social security numbers are false and date of births are wrong. It's from some real data that's been scrubbed so that you can get a real look and feel. So I have lots of cases I could work through. I'm just going to go into recertification. And classic WinFam. I don't know how many of you have purchased or used the Verify module. It's been here for about 10 years. And here it is. So this whole system was designed for your normal manual verification systems that you've always been using. You can, like I said, you could do it by hand, but we've added this internet verification to speed things up quite a bit. So I'm going to start this cycle. I'll make it 2018. And the whole point of this is that the verifications I do will be tagged to a verification cycle. So let's say a re-exam's coming up within 60 days and you wanted to start your paperwork or your internet work. So I gave it a date. And now I simply choose, let's go back out here. I've got 2 household members and they have some income and assets. And go back into Verify. And I have to start my cycle again because I didn't save it. Okay. And if you had a previous set of verifications, they would be brought forward so that you would already have some of your previous year's work sitting here. So the system brings up income and you can go and verify those amounts. But in particular, we're going to focus on the background check today. So we're going to do an add verification, which brings up this verification module. Once again, you can tell it's kind of geared for paperwork. It puts in today's date, how quickly you want an answer back. This all became kind of mute when we came up with an internet verification scheme. So I'm actually just going to click on Resident Check Report. It flipped the tab here, and it looked up my name. So it looked up the login name of the user, and it found that I can do these 3 types of screenings: an insta-check, a full check, or a criminal only. And so it's as simple as making a choice and then submitting a record. And that will submit it to the MRI resident check system. And it goes off now, so it's going off to the internet and getting a result. The results will either be accepted, pending, or declined. Ashley's going to go over in detail the results that are hidden behind here. So there's always this front screen, which gives you an overview. And in this one has very general, completed, accepted. And back on Verify, it got a case number. It also got the result, a green light, and accepted. On our system, we only retain these 3 items. And that's standard practice, that we don't retain any detailed information. It's always up protected on the cloud. So I can close this, and I'm going to do another one in a second here. And then I'll just save my work. And go out. And then the system will put in the result. And then anytime I want to now, I can go back in, This tab, by the way, is user protect, is by security. So you can have individual security rights for that tab. Once I have an ID number, I can go back anytime and pull that report again. And then once again, since the users would all be authorized, they would log in to Resident Check to get details. Ashley's going to cover that in a minute. Now I thought we should look at a second case. So we're going to go ahead and do another verification. So we did a credit check, and now we'll do a criminal check. I'm sorry, it went too fast. Go back here. I'll throw that one out. Just pulling this up. Got ahead of myself. Do this. And now I'll do a criminal only check. So this once again will go out and give us our basic information. And of course, you could find out what's going on and do a action letter from inside Resident Check. And then at that point, then I save my work, and it comes back to the system. You can continue to do more checks also. I wanted to touch on one other thing too, which is, so I'm logged in right now under my HAB account, and if I wanted to do, depending on how you want to set up the system, they give you the ability, let's go over here, to change accounts. So I have a HAB test account, and that HAB test account is the one that lets me do those 3 screenings. But you can work with Resident Check to set up express screenings or just public housing screenings. And so when I do that, I get a different list of checks. So some of your staff could do one kind of residency check, another could do another just background check. It's all configurable to your site. Okay, I think we're there, and would Ashley like to carry on?
Yep, I can take over from here.
Okay, and change. I think I changed presenter. Do I? Yep. Okay.
All right, great. So we have a couple of examples here of different applications. This first screen is just a summary screen. So this will just provide a snapshot of the results. It'll include a numeric score, any recommendations, and the status. So our recommendation here is this person is denied. And we have a breakdown here of some ranges. It'll either be approval or conditional or denied. And these will be the statistics, that that applicant will go delinquent. Now, our AccuScore model can hold any details you want. It can list conditions such as 1 month deposit, and again, it can be configured based on your property risk tolerance. So depending on the property, you might have different scoring criteria. If I scroll down, I can just see that there is a criminal record present and there's an eviction record present. Now, if I want to drill in and see some further details about each of these things, I can go to my full report here, view the report. I'm just going to scroll down to that section here. We'll talk about some of these other things in another example I want to show you here. So here is the criminal record search. So I can see the degree, the offense, fine. Now, a couple things to note on the criminal side. So this will list, again, the offense type, the date, the sentence, all that. And when there is a criminal record, resident check will weigh it with guidelines. So for example, for drug possession, the community standards might say possession is okay, but distribution is not, or a certain number of ounces are allowed. Like for example, in Cuyahoga, Ohio, this could be listed as a Class B misdemeanor, but maybe in Texas, this could be listed as something not on an ABC scale. So we're going to work to determine how to equalize that. That way all applicants are screened uniformly, and that'll take out that fair housing risk. And we also have a licensed PI on staff that will certify the results as well. And let's scroll down, I'll show you the eviction search. We're here to let us know what the status is, when it's filed, the judgment, all of that. So we can run this with the credit, but it can also be run separately as well. All right, now let me pull up another example here. So here's another example of a denied applicant, and there is a criminal record present. So I'm just going to go to the full report here and view that. So they do have a sex offender record here. All right, and then in my last example, we actually have somebody that has been accepted. So I can see they're here and they're in the green here. I'll go to the full report and we'll go over some of these other additional items. So on the full report, the top couple of sections are just information that we have entered for this resident. The next section is the identity verification. This is about, matching name, address, social security number, and this will determine if there could be any fraudulent activity. So the text would appear with a warning. It will also include any alias names, any credit bureau alerts. This could include alerts they could have put on themselves, so they are contacted when this gets run, or an alert placed by the credit bureau, which could mean the file is frozen, there's fraudulent information, law enforcement has directed an alert. And if there is a consumer alert consistent with the FACT Act, the property can actually request that resident check verify that identity. So we will actually call them and clear the alert without anyone on the property having to do anything. So the credit risk factor here is 39. We use Experian. No criminal record. We also do telecheck, so this will be any check writing history. This will show if they have an outstanding bad check. We can also add this to the scoring criteria. We can also have it show that they need to pay with certified funds as well. Next section will be the complete credit report. This will include public records, where civil judgments, bankruptcies, tax liens might be listed. These all potentially could be scored using the AccuScore model. It could be just for their existence, or we could have parameters around the date range or the balance amount or count. Like we might permit one tax lien but not two, whatever you require. Previous addresses, lawyers. And then this next section here will be the individual credit accounts. This will list open dates, status dates, balances, conditions. The blue indicates something is derogatory, and then housing debt would be in red. And this can also be restricted by account, length of time, balance, etc. You can also see any previous resident check inquiries here. And then the last thing I want to point out too is that we can actually also send out an action letter. If I go back up to the top and go to my action letter tab, this will allow you to give the resident, their decision with an action letter that will allow them to then contact resident check with further questions. So that'll take that burden off of the property as well. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to pass the ball back here.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. Just wanted to, before we get into the Q&A session, go ahead and review the business benefits that we saw before, and Ashley was just pointing out for us. Again, we have a world-class software product that does a lot of those great things that Ashley just showed us. But in addition to that, we have a team that is going to review all of the criminal background checks and going to ensure that we don't have any false positives and the property criteria are applied uniformly. We went into a lot of the details associated with the resident check software, but in the integrated product, again, with the ability not to override on the property, as well as some of the other features that the team is going to take care of, you won't necessarily have to be in the entire resident check software. If you so choose, you can deal with the integration and let the team take care of the rest. But you can also log in and get more details, as we've seen, from the criminal records to the credit check, both at the corporate office and at the property. But again, we'll work with y'all in terms of how you'd like to customize those user permissions. So with that said, I am going to go ahead and turn it back over to Andy for any questions that you have.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron, and thank you to Tom and Ashley. That was a great presentation. We do have a few questions that come in. Firstly, a question which says, are criminal background checks multi-state based? So Justin Baker, I'm going to pass it to you to handle that question, please.
Sure. Thanks, Andy. We offer a national, a statewide, and county criminal searches. Those are something that can be chosen in advance for any given report type that you're subscribing to, and those can also be combined. You could have different kinds of funding programs that require different stringencies of checks and do only national and state on one, or county and national and state on a different one. That's all completely configurable. Those searches can also function both as something that's predefined, searching a certain jurisdiction where the property is based, or we can also perform those searches based on the previous addresses of the applicant.
That's great, Justin. Thanks for the comprehensive answer. We've got a couple of other questions here. So the next one is, what is the typical implementation time and what is involved? So Regina, maybe you can take a stab at this one.
Okay, sure. Yeah, not a problem. We do aim to get the clients implemented within about 2 to 3 weeks. And the process really involves, once the agreement's been signed and the compliance process has been completed, myself or Monica Preston, that was introduced in the beginning, we would work at the corporate office level to set up the criteria and offer training and those sorts of things to get the properties ready or the users ready to go and access the system. And was there a second part of that question, or was that what you needed?
So there was another part, which was describe how your team assists site personnel and applicants with fraud alerts. But I think maybe Melinda would be better placed to answer that part.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Describe how your team assists site personnel and applicants with fraud alerts.
On the fraud alert portion?
I think, Melinda, you got two phones going. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we do.
Maybe we'll come back to Melinda. I've got another question for Justin. Justin, do the sex offender records indicate if the person is a lifetime sex offender registrant?
It will. The results that are returned on that include the terms of the registration, and it also includes the actual offense that led to the requirement of becoming registered.
Okay, thank you. There is another question. Are the results immediate? Justin, I think this one's back for you again on this one.
The credit, eviction, and check writing history are all instant. As far as the criminal, that varies depending on exactly which jurisdictions are being searched. The national sex offender and most states are not instant, but are delivered within hours. Counties vary depending on which county it is, whether or not they have something available that we can access electronically, or if we have to utilize our network to send someone to the courthouse. 48 hours is the worst case scenario in county. Most are 24 hours.
Okay. There was another question regarding the various kind of pricing options and so on. We're going to just introduce Aaron, the next slide, I think, a couple of people that people could contact regarding the solution if they want more information regarding pricing and implementation costs.
There we go.
So you need to contact your account manager then, and Andrea Matheny is your go-to person for any questions regarding a resident check for your particular implementation, and she can help you. So make a note of that email address. In the interest of time, we do have a couple more questions. I'm happy to take those, but we are running over. So let's see if we can get through a couple of these quickly. You completed a demo for a tenant. Is the process the same for an applicant? Justin, maybe I'll go back to you on this one.
The only difference would be if you are performing a different sort of check on an existing tenant. It might be fairly common that it's merely a criminal check, whereas the applicant may be evaluating things like check writing history or eviction. So you would have those different report types to choose from, but the nuts and bolts of clicking through and requesting it is pretty much the same.
And from the Windows side, it's the same screen, basically. Same procedure.
Okay. So a couple of related questions. Are we able to submit to collection agencies? Are we able to report payment histories to the credit bureaus? Maybe you can take a stab at that as well, Justin.
For the payment histories, we have a partnership with a subsidiary of one of the credit bureaus called Rent Bureau, who can handle that process. That wouldn't necessarily be in the scope of the screening offering, but in our overall product ecosystem, that is something you could do. For reporting the collections, I'll defer over to the HAB guys on how that works as far as the accounting back end.
Yeah, we don't contract with anyone else. Basically, it all goes to our write-offs and other programs we've set up. Certainly could look at doing that, but right now it all stays internal. Okay, so that's a follow-up question that might want to kind of discuss the specific implementation. So we'll leave that with Andrea to
handle. So basically, I think we're out of time. So I thank you very much for your time on this webinar today. And with that, we're going to end the webinar. If you've got any further questions, again, contact Andrea for any follow-up on this. We'll be happy to answer those questions for you. So thanks once again, everybody. And we're going to close the webinar now.